So you're at Disney,
Yes.
and then what happened?
Disney, then they had said, would you want to move out? And during that time, I was going to Juilliard, because my boss said, look, you want to do music. He goes, marketing's all fine and good. He goes, I love my job. He said, I love what I do. He goes, you like it, but you don't love it. You love music. So, look, Juilliard's right down the street. Why don't you go take classes there during the day? He goes, the main office, they're in LA. They don't know what goes on here. Just go, take classes. And he goes, I'll even arrange for Disney to pay for it. Because they had a program, whereas if you studied something that had some relationship to your job, they'd pay for it. So he arranged for this thing. I went over, interviewed, started working over there. I started going, so I'd come in earlier on those days, and then halfway through the day, I'd leave, go to classes, then come back to work. And then so LA called, and they said, would you want a job working for the head of marketing out here in Los Angeles? And I thought, wow, yeah. So they moved me out to LA, and my boss there did the exact same thing for me. He knew what I was interested in, and he knew what I liked, so he said, you should go to UCLA. They have these extension programs. And I went, and I took classes in orchestration, theory, all of this stuff.
This is all like in your mid-20s.
Yeah, and it was, you work a long day, and then you go to school at night, and it was hard, but it was great. I was loving what I was doing. I was loving learning all of this. And in the meantime, the guys up in the marketing, they're putting the trailers together. They were saying, here's some trailers that have no music. If you want to practice writing music to something, why don't you write to these, and then we can kind of critique you and tell you what we think and this and that. And I thought that was fantastic. And I was lucky to be surrounded by people that were very supportive. People, in Hollywood, you usually run into a lot of jealous people who don't want to help you. But I was really fortunate to work with people who were always very supportive, and not afraid to help somebody get into what they want to do. They were very secure people, because they were great at their jobs. They had no reason to be afraid. So I did that, and as time went on, I started realizing, I see how this whole thing works. Producers hire composers. Got it. So all I need to do is become a producer, and I can hire myself to write the music for that movie that I'm on. Well, a job came up at Disney Interactive to be a producer on the video games. And I went and interviewed for this job, and I got the job. So as an assistant producer there, I was kind of helping assemble work on the games, and they got to know me over time. They knew I did music, and I said, let me write some music for this game. And they knew me, and they were like, sure, go for it. And they liked it. So they just kept asking me to write more music for the different games they had there.
What were some of the titles of them?
Maui Mallard. Everyone,
Great.
huge hit. You must all remember that, right? Maui Mallard, The Lion King. I was helping on that game. I was helping, just the whole Mickey Mania, all this crazy stuff. And then DreamWorks started up, and Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney. Now, he was friends with my boss in marketing, so I wrote him a letter. I said, I know you're starting this whole thing. I'm over here now, and if you need any help over there, I would love to talk to you about what opportunities are over there. So he wrote me back and said, why don't you come over and we can talk about it? And he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'd love to just kind of, ultimately write music, but right now this is what I'm doing in video games, is producing animation and all of this. And I said I could start my own company with a friend of mine who was over there, and we'd love to start developing things for you. So they funded our company, and it was called Mission Control, and we had like 30 employees. And it took about a year for it to go down in flames. But it was such an amazing experience doing that. I was producing, I was writing music for them, and then when it went out of business, they hired me on over at DreamWorks as a charity case. I guess they felt bad for me, but and they said, look, Spielberg is coming in tomorrow. He's coming to see what we're working on. They were working on this game called The Lost World. Now, at the time, Steven was directing the movie. It's the second Jurassic Park film. And they said, we need music for this demo. He's coming in. He's going to check out some animations, some level designs, and all of that. And I said, would you throw something together for us? I was like, sure. So I went home, and I wrote some music, brought it in the next morning, and I handed it off. And off they went, and I went back to my day job there, just kind of working on this game, which was terrible. And halfway through the day, the phone rings, and it's the guy downstairs who's one of the producers on the game. He's like, come on, can you come down? Steven wants to talk to you. And I'm like, Steven who? Because I was like so in my mind, I'm like, why are you bothering me? Steven who? And he's like, Steven Spielberg, he wants to meet you. Can you come down and talk to him? And I was like, oh, Jesus. So I remember going down, they had an escalator there, and it was a weird thing. So I remember I'm like running to the escalator to go run down those stairs, right? And I got to the top of the escalators, I was about to run down, and there he is at the bottom of the escalator. So now I'm like faced with this dilemma. do you run down the stairs, or do you just kind of sit there and just slowly go down the stairs? So I was like, probably not cool to run down the stairs, so I just kind of sat there awkwardly on the thing and just started going down the thing. And I'm getting closer to him, and he's just standing there waiting. And as I'm getting closer, I realize it's like literally like a shot out of his movies, where it's just kind of going in on his face, and before you know, he's full screen right in the frame there. And he just puts out his hand and was like, hey, I like what you really did on this. Or, you know, are you going to do the game, and how are we going to do this, and we need to use a live orchestra for it, and all of this. And this was news to the guys running DreamWorks Interactive. They were like, they did not want to be paying money for a live orchestra on this PlayStation game. But Steven's world works like, you know, he says, I think we should do this, and then everyone around him goes, yeah, we should do this. You know,
How do you come up with these ideas?
But he, you know, the thing about him was he's a massive soundtrack fan. He's a massive music lover, and he knows every composer. If you think you know anything about music, you know nothing compared to him, because he is such a savant when it comes to that stuff. And a fan, he's just a big fan of it. But he knew what live music would add to the game. So, you know, with his support, we were able to do that. And that was my first real kind of job, you know, working with a live orchestra. And I was scared to death, and I made a bunch of mistakes, but I learned a lot too. And when that job was done, he said, hey, I'm going to do this game, Medal of Honor, which is loosely based on what I'm doing right now, which is Saving Private Ryan. And he was really into World War II at the time, and, you know, we just scored that. And I was like, sure. And those Medal of Honor games went on, and I did a bunch of them. And then J.J. Abrams sends me...
Can I just say something?